The iPhone 17 Pro Max is a superb smartphone. It's fast, packed with features, runs cooler and more efficient than ever, and has the best battery life and largest screen of any iPhone to date. Its design and materials may be controversial to some, but there's no denying that it's a fantastic smartphone. However, this phone has changed something inside of me. It has a hold on me unlike any iPhone in recent years. And I've been a Pro Max user literally since day one, even before it was called the Pro Max. I bought the iPhone 6 Plus when that came out in 2014, and then I had a 6S Plus, and then a 7 Plus, and then a 10S Max, a 12 Pro Max, and then 13, 14, 15, 16, all Pro Max. And it's not hard to see why. The Pro Max is eternally popular because it is the superlative smartphone. It's the biggest screen, the best battery, the most features, the best materials. That is its purpose. So I get it, right? I mean, I'm literally that guy. That's why I've bought Pro Maxes for as long as I have. You know, every once in a while, like the iPhone 15, we even had a year where the Pro Max had a feature, the telephoto camera, that you didn't get on the regular one. And in most generations, frankly, the Pro battery life has felt a little bit lackluster. And that's why I consistently fall back to the Pro Max. Every year, I flirt with the idea of maybe going down to a Pro because it has some appealing benefits like being smaller and lighter. But every time after playing with the phones and coming to Australia for a couple of days, I always end up going back. And so that begs the question, why did I title the video what I did? Well, let me explain myself. But first, a word from today's video sponsor. Unleash the full power of iPhone 17 with today's video sponsor, ESR. Their stash stand cases for iPhone 17 bring ultimate protection, and when paired with the ultra-fit ArmorRite Pro screen protector, you'll never have to worry about dents or cracks. ESR CyberTough magnetic cases offer dual-layer camera protection, covering the camera bar completely and surrounding it with their versatile stash stand, which provides protection when closed and transforms into a stand to prop up in landscape and portrait mode when open. With their 3-layer system consisting of a robust PC backing, TPE softshell, and inner lining, as well as air guard corners, 11-foot drop protection is not a problem, and you won't have to sacrifice performance with peak performance magnets for MagSafe accessories. And to bolster your protection even more, use UltraFit ArmorRite Pro screen protectors. The super easy applicator makes installation a breeze with just 2 simple steps. And thanks to Accessory Glass by Corning with SGS certification, they absorb 10 times more impact than generic protectors. So give your iPhone 17 the ultimate protection by checking out ESR with the links in the description below. Big thanks to them for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. Now let me be the first to say that I had zero intention of daily driving the iPhone Air all the way up until Apple's September event. As the rumor mill was churning for this phone, I thought it was a really cool idea, but the fundamental sacrifices that we all knew were coming were just gonna be too much. Having a single camera, this tiny device with very little battery, and a single speaker, I thought it was a non-starter. But what really piqued my interest was my unboxing. While the Pro Max has been my go-to for a really long time, this year the design isn't my personal favorite, and I'm definitely mourning the loss of titanium, even though I understand the benefits of aluminum in this case. And so once I got my hands on both devices, and I felt this thing for the first time, which I really recommend that you do, that's when things started to change. It's a weird way to describe this, but this phone kind of feels like the past and the future. It feels futuristic because it's so radically thin and beautiful, but it also feels like the past because it's a design-first product that makes a lot of functional sacrifices to accomplish that design. The Pro and the Pro Max are explicitly designed to be the superlative. They give you absolutely everything that the iPhone has to offer. But the iPhone Air and other ultra-thin phones like the S25 Edge, they fly directly in the face of that. And they say, what if we do compromise, pretty unapologetically, in order to get a phone that just feels nice? And that, I think, is, if we boil everything down, what I love about this phone. It is so comfortable to hold and easy to use, with a perfect sized display and still a very good camera and still Face ID and still ProMotion. And I think, while a lot of us have been focused on the compromises, I do think it's worth pointing out what Apple has managed to accomplish here. This titanium frame is absolutely gorgeous. The phone is so impossibly thin that it is still blowing my mind a couple of days later. Just holding it right now is like, it doesn't feel real. All of us Pro Max diehards know that our phones are chunky. They're big, they're heavy, they're bulky. But I've never truly considered going down to the Pro because the 6.1 or now 6.3 inch screen just feels a little too small. This is the perfect Goldilocks phone. It has a big enough screen that I don't feel cramped, but because it's so thin and light and comfortable to hold, I also feel like it's a massive upgrade in terms of ergonomics from the Pro Max. But a lot of us were worried that in going to a phone this radically thin, we were gonna give up some durability. At 5.6 millimeters, it's thinner than the previous thinnest iPhone ever made, the iPhone 6, and, well, we all know how that went. But fortunately, it seems like Apple has pulled off some really incredible engineering, as I will now demonstrate. We'll adopt the classic bend test stance, and yep, nope. Nope, nothing. That's really impressive, so let's compare it to the iPhone 6 Plus. We'll adopt the same exact stance, and oh my gosh. Dude, this thing just comes apart. Wow. I hope that gives you some idea of just how strong this thing is. And by the way, before you comment, this was a water-damaged phone that was already toast. Another area that we thought was going to be a massive compromise on the iPhone Air is the battery life. At 3,150 milliamp hours, this thing is like 40% smaller than the iPhone 17 Pro Max's battery. That is a significant difference. So I wanted to get to the bottom of this, and the first day after my unboxing, I charged both phones up to full. I woke up at like 6 a.m. and I started using both phones simultaneously. Anytime I would use the iPhone Air to browse Twitter for 10 minutes, I would go pull out the Pro Max and do the same. So I tried to keep the screen time and what I was using the phones for as even as possible. But as the day went on, well, the iPhone Air was definitely draining its battery faster. I am gonna be honest, I thought it was gonna be way worse than it was. And I will say anecdotally that a couple of my friends who have 15 Pros and 16 Pros, well, their battery was draining at a very similar rate. By the time our group got back to the Airbnb and we were getting ready for dinner at 7:30, I'd been on the go for about 13 hours already, and the iPhone Air just hit 20% battery. But you'll notice with 4 hours of screen time, we have a pretty consistent battery drop-off. Now, the Pro Max handled itself better initially, staying above 90% for the first 3 or 4 hours. But at 33% battery at the end of the day, it wasn't a massive difference, right? If I'm coming home at 7:30, getting ready to go out again for the evening, whether I'm at 20% or whether I'm at 33%, I'm probably gonna plug in for a little bit to add some battery just to be safe. So at least on that particular day, I wasn't gonna change my behavior because I had the iPhone Air. The caveat that I will give is because I was using both phones simultaneously, I probably did have slightly lower overall screen time than if I just had one phone to do everything on. So the next day, I left the Pro Max behind and I only used the iPhone Air. Getting close to 5:30, we're at 35% battery. I think it would be a little bit of a challenge to make it to bedtime, but let's see what the screen on time is. 4 hours, 8 minutes with a pretty varied usage. Been doing some videos, browsing social media, a lot of videos, a lot of streaming. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be worse. At the end of the day, I mean, you can't get around the fact that you're sacrificing on battery life purely so you can have a thin phone. And you're not really getting a whole lot else for that. And the same argument applies for the camera system. While the 48 megapixel main sensor is the camera that I use the most often, I do use the ultra-wide camera very, very frequently. I use the telephoto camera very, very frequently. In fact, on my other channel, The Middle Lane, where I'm shooting car videos and road trips, we use iPhones really, really frequently, and the ultra-wide and the telephoto are a major part of that production. And the new Pro Max's camera system is fantastic. I've been really, really loving the 4x portrait mode. That 48 megapixel resolution at that focal length looks fantastic. And of course, with LiDAR, you're able to get really, really great definition. Take a look at how much it's able to cut out just individual strands of hair. Now, over on the iPhone Air, I have to say it does a really, really good job in portrait mode, but it is gonna cut off some of those smaller details because there's no LiDAR sensor. One thing that you don't have to give up is that new front-facing camera. That's gonna be standard across the 17, Air, and the Pros. And that thing looks absolutely fantastic. We took some great group photos. It almost makes up for the lack of the ultra-wide. If taking selfies with your friends is one of the main reasons that you use the ultra-wide camera, but I use it for a whole bunch of other stuff. So even having like the dual capture mode and that new selfie camera, it's still a limitation. I'll be honest, this is kind of the exact situation where I'm missing the ultra-wide camera, because I have like a really cool view, but I can't really fit it all in. I do like the dual capture though. That's a nice touch. And using the phone over the past couple of days, it's these little limitations just keep popping up over and over. I was showing some friends a video, but because there's only that one single speaker, it's not really loud enough to be listenable. I was transferring photos and videos off of this device, and the USB 2 port is just painfully slow. Why is that not at least USB 3? There's all of these little tiny things, but what really stands out to me about this phone is how fresh it feels. This is a product that feels like a real Air again. For the past couple of years, Air has been kind of redefined as the cheaper version, right? Back in the day, 2008 with the original MacBook Air, 2013 with the original iPad Air, the Air meant that it was advanced, luxurious, maybe a little bit of compromise, maybe not as many features, but it was pretty and radical, and it would make you go, wow, I can't believe there's a computer or an iPad in that. The iPhone Air feels like a return to that, right? It's not the most practical, it's not the most feature-rich, but it feels luxurious and cool and technologically advanced, and that's not something that an Air product has done for a really long time. So what I think Apple has finally done is give us a fourth iPhone model that's actually worth considering. Over the past several generations, the standard iPhone, the Pro, and the Pro Max have all sold well. They all have their markets. The Mini and the Plus, they never really found their audience, but I think the Air could finally change that. I understand that the compromises that the iPhone Air entails is gonna be too much for most people. In fact, I can't even guarantee that I'm gonna be able to stay switched to this thing forever. I'm gonna sure as heck try, but losing those cameras, losing the battery, it's gonna be really, really tricky. But I think what this Air shows me more than anything is what the direction that I want phones to go in is. I want there to be a time where I don't have to choose. I want to be able to get the thin, beautiful, minimal, comfortable, easy to hold phone that also has great battery life that lasts all day and a camera system that I can use for any situation. I want the iPhone Pro to be like this. And so I am gonna try to make the Air work. Now, something that I thought was interesting in the comments on my unboxing video was a lot of people said, well, of course YouTubers like the iPhone Air because they have 58 phones in their drawer and they don't actually have to commit to using anything, but normal people couldn't possibly use an iPhone Air. And to that I say touche. We do have a lot of phones, but I at least always pick one phone and just use that. I don't move my SIM card around all the time. If I'm filming a video where I'm saying like, hey, let's buy the best iPhone under $200, sure, I'll put my SIM card in it for a couple of days, but it's not like I'm over here just switching phones all the time to make sure that I can always get exactly what I need. Usually the way that I operate is I'll buy the latest Pro Max and then I'll keep whatever last year's phone was as effectively just a camera. If I'm shooting an unboxing or I'm doing something for the car channel and I need a second or a third camera, then I'll have that. But I never put my SIM card in it, and I certainly don't use it very often. So I am legitimately switching to the iPhone Air. It's gonna be a challenge, make no mistake, and I might not be able to do it, but I am gonna try. And I'm going to try because I think that this Air is just, there's just something about it, man. I really, really encourage you guys, if you have misgivings, if you're looking at the specs on paper and you're going, oh, these ultra thin phones, they just don't make sense. The cameras aren't enough, the battery's not enough. I get it. All of those complaints are 100% valid and true. This phone is not gonna be for everyone. But for what it's worth, this is a legitimate, lifelong Pro Max user, from the 6 Plus to the 16 Pro Max, and I'm legitimately switching to the iPhone Air. I really, really like this thing. What a phone. I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. As usual, thank you so much for watching. I'll keep you updated if I'm able to keep doing this, but we're gonna try. I'll see you guys in the next one.